Let me start here. Let me start at Christmas. Pope Francis made a dire warning to the Curia, the cardinals and everybody else in the Vatican, warning them to be ever vigilant of demons lurking in the Vatican. Now, this was part of his Christmas address, which apparently he has turned into an annual airing of grievances. Someplace in his Christmas address, he will put some things where he's, kind of upset about inside the Vatican. He'll bury that in the Christmas address.
So they've adopted part of Festivus into the Vatican's Christmas?
Festivus?
Yeah, from, of course, George Costanza's holiday.
Right.
They had the airing of grievances as part of it.
That's right. Well, that's kind of what it is.
Wow.
That's kind of what it is. So he said, you have to be ever vigilant of demons lurking in the Vatican. Now, he couched this, and you can read it this way, and this is probably what he meant, but listen to the whole story. He said, we could easily fall into the temptation of thinking we're safe, better than others, no longer in the need of conversion. But there is an elegant demon who does not make a loud entrance, but comes with flowers in his hand. So he says this elegant demon is now lurking among the Vatican staff. Okay, so is that just something that he's like, hey, everybody's human and we should just be careful, ever vigilant? Could be. Find it really interesting that he's using those words, because I want to add something on top of that. Pope Benedict, who just died, his longtime personal secretary, has written a tell-all book that his publisher promised would tell the truth about dark maneuvers, mysteries, and scandals that sullied the reputation of Pope Benedict. Dark maneuvers. This is a guy who stood by Benedict for 3 decades. He worked with him when he was just, Father, what was his name? Ratzinger. Then he was his personal secretary. He became the Pope's secretary. And then when Benedict suddenly left, which was extraordinarily odd.
First time in, 600 years?
Yeah, it's extraordinarily odd. And the story has been that, he fell and, he was like, I don't think I can do this job anymore. And that may be true. But was there anything else that was going on? This book is promising to say, yeah, there were some dark maneuvers going on. I want to add a personal story before I go into part 3 of this. I was at the Vatican. I've gone twice. What was the last one? 2011? Do you remember?
I don't.
It
was a while ago, though.
It's when they appointed, when Ratzinger was the Pope, and he had appointed a bunch of cardinals. Dolan was one of the cardinals that was being sworn in. And we were there, and I talked to Dolan, and I talked to many of the cardinals, and I was supposed to meet with the Pope at that time, and it fell through at the last minute, but I was hanging out with all these cardinals, and I think they were the good cardinals. I mean, everybody has their own personality and everything else, but these guys were like Mother Teresa, St. Francis. They were the poorer ones and from the poorer countries, and they were just all about service. And we took I had so many incredible, life-changing experiences there that just opened my eyes to so much. And one night, it was before the Cardinals were, I don't know.
Cardinaling?
Mm-hmm. I don't know what it was called. But anyway, it was the night before. And I'm in this room with all of the Cardinals, okay? And there's just a few people that aren't wearing these red robes. And Tanya and I are standing there, and we're standing talking to these Cardinals. And this one guy who was really our host that night, he was just You know, when you meet people and you could feel the Spirit on them and the kindness and everything else, you just know when you're in the presence of somebody who's really connected to the Spirit. And he said to me at the time, he said, you know why this is happening? And he meant why so many cardinals were being called. And I said, no. And he said, there's a war inside the Vatican. And he said, I believe that it's a war of good and evil. He said, but there is a real war because there are many political aspects. And basically what he described to me was deep state. There was the deep state of the Vatican that was going to do, didn't matter what a pope even thought. And he alluded to the fact that Ratzinger or Benedict, Pope Benedict, knew this and was doing basically what Donald Trump did with the Supreme Court. He was appointing all these cardinals because he wanted to stack the deck because, in his words, he didn't feel he had very much longer that he could fight. And I just thought maybe he's sick at the time, but it was like a year later that he retired. And so he said, he's stacking the deck. He's trying to make sure that after he's gone, there's enough to hold back the onslaught. And he said, and it's real evil. And so we were just talking about it. And we're in this room, someplace in Rome. We're in this room that it was enormous. It was a ballroom, from, 1,000 years ago. And it had a map of the world that was like 2 stories and a football field long. I mean, it was unbelievable. It was like a movie. Like if you were a supervillain, you'd have a desk in the center of this room. You know what I mean? And you'd have one light at the desk, and the bad guy would be sitting behind it, and the camera would just show him and the whole map of the world. It was like that kind of a room. It was beautiful. And so we're standing there, and I'm just listening to what he's saying. And this guy comes in, and he was one of the cardinals, and I don't want to identify his role, but he was very, very high up. And man, he walked in with all these suits, all these politicians. And the guy said, that guy's the mayor. This guy is finance minister, blah, blah, blah. And I said, man, the room got chilly. And because it just felt like this is not a good guy. When he came in, he was like, you could feel it. As much as I could feel the good on one guy, this guy. And he said, oh yeah, he's that's the beginning. There's the head. And he said, you want to meet him? And I'm like, no, I don't want to meet him. And he said, you should. And so my wife looked at me like, why? Why would we want to meet him? And so he came up, and what the cardinal was doing was, you just judge for yourself. Just say hello. This was the spookiest guy I've ever met. I don't remember the conversation. I just remember thinking, I want to stop talking to him and go way away from him. There is a war, and I'm not saying this to, bash the Catholics or, have you question your faith if you're a Catholic or anything like that. Pray for the people who are in leadership positions. What's happening in Washington is happening in all of our churches. The evil has taken a foothold, and there are good guys inside fighting. I want to get the guy who wrote this tell-all book to be on, and we're looking at another cardinal that we could get on that might be able to tell us some of the inside things that are going on, that has been a little frank about some of these things. But the last thing I want to bring to your attention is when Pope Benedict was a cardinal, he had a lot of friends, and they were other cardinals. And when they released the final secret, the third secret of Fatima, which, if you're not Catholic, it's just a message from heaven given to these kids right before World War I. And it said there's a huge, Russia is the problem. It's going to spread its error throughout the world unless her heart is changed. And there's going to be a world war coming soon, and then there will be a second world war, and then a final battle. And it happened years before World War I and World War II, obviously. And then there was the third one, the third secret, if you will, about what sets up the final battle. They released this, and it was kind of like, okay, that's old news. Ratzinger, who is Pope Benedict, said, and this has just been published, that Pope Benedict said the third secret has not been revealed in its entirety because the Pope and all those involved would not allow it to be released. Or if he was the Pope, I can't remember which it was, but the power did not want to release it because it talks about a bad council and a bad mass and evil at the top and highest levels of the church. And that's the warning that was given to them in 1910, and it leads to the end of days. So I found it interesting that for anybody who believes in any of these kinds of things, and if you believe in evil, I find it interesting that the current pope is talking about evil. The last pope is talking about evil, but I think they're kind of pointing at each other a little bit. I don't think they're on the same side. I think they're both using evil, but I think they're not talking about the same evil and aren't fighting the same evil. And then to have this Fatima secret come out now, according to sources, it is from the Pope that just died. I find it fascinating.
And to be clear, you're saying the book that is coming out is a tell-all book basically about Benedict and what was going on.
And saying that he was not the guy everybody, because they called him, God's Rottweiler. He went through a lot, with the press, but also this book is saying there were internal things that were going on that I can tell you when he was the Pope, I heard at the Vatican that he was fighting real evil and there was a battle inside. It was like the deep state.
And this book was, you think, intentionally withheld until after he passed?
Until he died. I think this book was, I could be wrong. But as I read it, he was so close. You don't write a book overnight. He just died.
Right.
So he's been writing it for months. Yeah. And this guy worked at his side his whole time. He's the guy who gave him last rites, called Pope Francis and say he's dead. I mean, he was the guy with him all the time. I would bet you that it was written with Benedict. Could be wrong, but there might be some very interesting things that come out of this book.